after ramping up pressure on Baghdad over its Iran ties. US new desperate move to claw back control in Iraq? Washington announces massive reward for an Iran-backed militia chief. Is the US now betting on cash bounties to do what years of strikes and sanctions couldn't? Scared of Iran-aligned militias, Trump is willing to shell out up to $10 million for information on Iraqi armed group leader. The US launches a new manhunt while Iraq is accused of siding with Iran and even sending fighters. Can rewards and dollar blockades pull this key Arab ally back into America's camp? Amid growing fears of a renewed Iran war, the US is ramping up pressure on Iraq to stop helping Tehran and its allied militias, tightening both financial and security levers. The US State Department has offered up to $10 million for information on the leader of an Iran-backed Iraqi armed group, signaling a major escalation in its targeting of Tehran's proxies. Officials announced the reward through a social media post on April 23, using the Rewards for Justice program to solicit tip-offs worldwide. Washington says it is seeking information on Hashim Finyan Rahim al-Saraji, also known as Abu Allah al-Walai, a veteran Iran-aligned militia commander. Al-Saraji leads Kataeb Sayyid al-Shuhada or KSS, a group the US has designated as a terrorist organization and linked directly to the IRGC network. Hashim Finyan Rahim al-Saraji is also known as Abu Wallah al-Waili. He was a member of Kataeb Hezbollah before KSS. His terror activities reportedly led to his arrest and imprisonment in US. Al-Saraji was reportedly released from US custody in 2010. He joined KSS at the outset of Syria's civil war in early 2010s. He also has a seat within Iraq's coordination framework, the ruling Shiite alliance that holds the parliamentary majority. The US says KSS has killed Iraqi civilians and attacked US diplomatic facilities in Iraq, citing multiple past incidents attributed to the group. Washington adds that KSS has also attacked US military bases and personnel in both Iraq and Syria, making its leadership a high-priority target. The State Department post notes that anyone providing actionable information could be eligible for substantial cash reward and possible relocation assistance. Earlier in April, the US offered a similar multi-million-dollar reward for the leader of Kataeb Hezbollah, another major Iran-backed Iraqi militia. That group was involved in the March kidnapping of US journalist Shelley Kittleson, who was later released, further straining US militia relations. Washington has meanwhile piled pressure on Baghdad to rein in these pro-Tehran groups, demanding concrete action from the Iraqi government. As part of this campaign, the US has suspended dollar cash shipments to Iraq and frozen some security cooperation programs with the Iraqi military over militia attacks. US Treasury Department officials blocked a cargo plane delivery of nearly $500 million in US banknotes, halting a scheduled shipment of cash to Baghdad. These funds were proceeds from Iraqi oil sales held in accounts at the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, which routinely disperses physical dollars to Iraq's central bank. This was the second such delay since the US-Israeli war against Iran began on February 28, indicating a pattern of using dollar shipments as leverage. The move followed weeks of attacks by Iran-backed militias on US facilities in Iraq in support of Tehran, including strikes on bases and diplomatic sites. In a statement on April 21, the Central Bank of Iraq said it was not short of US currency, pushing back against reports of a dollar shortage. The bank said it had fulfilled all requests from banks and exchange companies for US dollars, insisting that domestic demand for cash dollars was being met. This financial squeeze comes days after Iran's Quds Force commander Esmail Qaani visited the US allied nation to meet political and militia leaders. According to Iraqi reports, Esmail Qaani, the head of Iran's IRGC Quds Force, began his latest visit on April 8, just as tensions around the ceasefire were intensifying. Qaani first sat down with militia leaders, the men who command fighters on the ground, and then held separate talks with leaders of the Shiite Coordination Framework. The SCF, or Shiite Coordination Framework, is a powerful coalition of pro-Iran Shiite parties that currently forms the largest bloc in Iraq's parliament. Reports say Qaani's main mission was to hammer out an agreement on who the coalition should nominate as Iraq's next prime minister. Initially, the coordination framework leaned toward bringing back Nouri al-Maliki as prime minister, a figure long seen as close to Iran. In response, Donald Trump reportedly threatened that the US would cut off vital aid to Iraq if al-Maliki returned to the premiership. Iraqi media say the talks also focused heavily on the future of the militias that have become a permanent part of the country's security landscape. One idea on the table is to integrate these militias into official state security institutions, while keeping their political and armed wings formally separate. Another stated goal of Khani's visit was to address regional de-escalation and its impact on Iraq, according to an account carried by AFP. An Iraqi source said Khani was keen to ensure that security in Iraq does not deteriorate during these sensitive times for the wider region. Days after his reported trip to Iraq, Ismail Khani issued a fresh warning on April 24, declaring that Iran and its allies would make any US or Israeli aggression deeply regretful. Touting the unity of the so-called resistance front, Khani said Iran's regional allies stand together and will respond collectively to continued US-Israeli attacks. Khani's post on X read, quote, "The support of the resistance front and the fighters without borders in the war against the American Zionist enemy is the unity of the streets and the cohesion of the authorities. Those who say, we are all Iranians and revolutionaries, and with the iron unity of the nation and the state, with complete obedience to the supreme leader of the revolution. We will make the criminal aggressor regret it. One God, one leader, one nation, and one path. And that is the path of victory for Iran, dearer than life." Unquote. Khani's remarks were in line with recent messages from Iran's top leadership, which have repeatedly stressed internal cohesion despite battlefield pressure. This includes President Masoud Pezeshkian, Parliament Speaker Mohammad Bakir Ghalibaf, and Judiciary Chief Gholam Hossein Mohini-Eg, who have all publicly rejected claims of divisions in Tehran. They issued a coordinated response to Donald Trump's comments about fractures in Iran's leadership, dismissing his remarks as propaganda. Mujtaba Khamenei stated that, due to unity among compatriots, a fracture has occurred in the enemy, arguing that cohesion in Iran has instead exposed weaknesses on the opposing side. Reports suggest Iraq may have quietly sent its forces to support Tehran, raising questions over Baghdad's stance in the conflict. Social media videos showed Iran-affiliated Iraqi fighters deployed on the streets of Tehran, indicating that foreign militias could now be helping secure the Iranian capital. These developments come alongside reports that Iran has granted some of its commanders greater autonomy over Iraqi militias, loosening direct control. According to an AP report, Tehran has allowed certain groups to carry out operations without prior approval from Iranian authorities. Many of these Iran-backed militias are still financed through the official Iraqi state budget, blurring the line between national forces and proxy networks. Most hardline factions are now said to operate under Iranian advisors using a decentralized command structure, making their chains of responsibility harder to trace and constrain.